Okay. Hello, FairTV Commission. We are officially recording. It's Wednesday, July 21st at 7:09 p.m. 2021. So, I believe we have to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everybody. So, who would like to lead that? I'll lead it. Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God. It stands. Oh my God. With liberty and justice for all. All right. So I'm going to pull up our agenda here. Okay. Sorry, if anybody has the agenda, I'm just pulling it up now. Sorry about that.
I have it handy. Let's just call to order then Vice Chairman's report is number 2 on the agenda.
Okay, well, I don't have anything to report other than that. Well, I guess that'll be new business. So I have nothing specific to report. Does anybody else? Jerry?
We've been talking a bit about the evolution of FairTV, so to speak. Where we're at now. I guess to start out here, a few weeks back I was contacted by the first deputy.
Apologies, Jerry. If you don't mind, can we jump for the moment to, we need to at least have somebody who is taking minutes for tonight's meeting. Is there somebody who would volunteer to take minutes?
I can take them, Alex.
Thank you very much. Okay. So for the moment, Patrick will take minutes, and go ahead, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay, so they expressed to me this interest in, expanding and carrying on the remote capability with town meetings, and not just the 5 that we are obviously usually cover, but all town boards and commissions. There's another 55 meetings a month that represent that. Now, I submitted, a little while back, I created an overview with some ideas and ways to approach it, and this, that, just to kind of get their juices going. And they've got a concept that I was telling Paul about this earlier. They're looking at this concept called the Zoom room, which is essentially they set up rooms and they're outfitted with wall-mounted cameras and fixed audio capability, and basically a group will sit down and this system will essentially take over and be the media platform. What FairTV has been asked to do is sort of be the publisher of these events. Now, we can't run 55 additional meetings a month, live anyway, on FairTV, and we actually probably can't run them even in rebroadcast. We can pick and choose and run some here and there within our broadcast schedule, but there's only so many hours in the day. And so the thought was, and as I mentioned to Paula, that Alex and I were talking, it was just one-on-one with him, so it really wasn't an issue as far as meetings outside of the meeting. But the idea being is that I suggested to the First Select Women's group that they set up these rooms, set up maybe 3 or 4 of these rooms, and hopefully in the same place. But in further conversation recently, they're going to have 2 over at the idea is to split the current meeting room over at the Board of Ed. Now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that meeting room, but the Board of Finance and the RTM meet there along with the Board of Ed. and it's a traditional kind of setup. But what they want to do, the room has a divider that splits it in half. So they want to be able to have sort of a three-function kind of room, these two separate rooms, and then pull the divider back and have one large room for the larger bodies and, the traditional elements entities that we cover. What Fair TV would do as far as we would still do the same thing that we're doing now. We would patch in, we would line the Zoom portion of the meeting into our broadcast hardware. We would also perhaps have one or two additional cameras. We would have a sound. We would pull the sound in, and then provide, like I said, what we usually provide with lower thirds and a little more structure than the idea for these other events, which the town doesn't really want to pay anybody, or if they do, they don't want to. They don't want to necessarily have to hire more skilled people. They want to have this kind of be push the button and go, which we can actually provide a structure for. But as I was saying, they split this up around town. There's a room at Ward they want to use. There's the two I mentioned over at the Board of Ed, and then also outfit the first floor meeting room in Town Hall. Now, this is all a good idea, but we're still in the same place as far as personnel is concerned.
That'll.
Yes?
Oh, I was gonna say that all makes a lot of sense. Is everybody familiar with, I think just given that we have new people, I want to make sure that everybody's familiar with what we're talking about. So does anybody have any questions, first of all? Okay, well,
Just so I understand, these are physical rooms that we're talking about setting up where people will be meeting, and then therefore they'd be broadcasting out of each of these locations. Is that right?
Yeah. We're not. By the way, we're not paying for it. The town is utilizing their American Recovery Program Act money. They've set aside $400,000 for what they call hybrid technology for this use. Some of it will go towards these hybrid rooms. Some of it will come to Fair TV to support any technological needs we might have to have. Again, our role is outside of the 5 meetings that we normally cover. I look at as a publishing job, and we can only do so much with personnel and hardware and whatnot. So the idea of a stripped down meeting structure with no lower thirds or titling or extra cameras would go into a little piece of equipment that is essentially a device that shoots that Zoom room meeting. You patch into this device, and it shoots it straight out to the web. All you have to do is push a button, and it happens.
Yeah. So just to,
and that's easy for them.
Right. So just to clarify, everybody, right now, the norm has been there's a meeting. They are scheduled to be recorded by Fair TV. Fair TV goes to that specific location, and some equipment might be previously sort of there and installed, but some equipment is delivered, ultimately set up, and then used to broadcast the meeting. We're talking about cameras and tricorders and all of this stuff, and what that does is then they're able to live broadcast the meeting to the television station, which takes a lot of outside of just the filming aspect and the manpower. There's some technology that has to happen for it to get onto regular access television, right? And then there are things like the lower thirds, which, if anybody's not sure what a lower third is, what we mean is just a name tag. So somebody speaking or the name of the movie of the meeting, or what have you, is actually listed on the actual footage, right? So that's a lower third.
We try to work with the conversation as it comes along, and we will create lower thirds live that sort of like if there's an element that becomes, discussed a little further that isn't necessarily, we'll add that in there. We'll work, we work for the viewer basically to help them either while they're watching a live event or if they're watching it, rebroadcast. It helps them if they have, it helps them find places of interest that they may want to review after the event.
Right.
Like they say, either from the VOD side or, mostly from the VOD side.
Right. So what
starting around.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And so then what's happening, everyone, is that now the town is saying, hey, we have a lot of meetings and we'd like to broadcast them all. And we like this virtual, Zoom meeting aspect. And how can we do it? And so it becomes sort of economics, if you will, where, there is the technology exists for, Zoom to broadcast direct to YouTube and for this to become public that way. But it doesn't entail a little bit of install because, yes, everybody knows how to use Zoom, but in order to have it broadcast live to YouTube or be properly archived or what have you, you need a little bit of, tech savvy and a little bit of equipment and a little bit of manpower in order to do that. So the question is that's sort of coming up at this point in the commission, and we're new, and nothing like this has come up, mind you, in the past year that I've been involved, is all of a sudden a revamping of how FairTV, acts and how it records these meetings. And the idea is let's record all of them rather than just certain ones. And the way we can do that is by accessing this technology, and it'll be more content, and everything will become available. However, it will be less production value as a result. So it's sort of, that's the discussion that's starting to happen within the town, and something that we'll need to field in the near future.
Well put for the
Yeah,
record.
all of this. I'm sorry.
That was well explained for the record. This is Patrick, who's taking notes on what you just set out for the new folks, Laura and Mark. That was, I think, pretty well explained. Any questions on that? Just to slow down and pause and reconsider that.
Question, it's Mark. So unlike the solution that we talked about at the last meeting, which was to have sort of, remote operated or cameras in certain places, it takes that part of the equation out of it. There's no person that needs to be there from your office.
Yeah, I apologize, Mark. I'm having a little bit of a tough time hearing you, but I think you were asking, correct me if I'm wrong, like that there was some discussion about remote operated cameras and that running the meetings as opposed to having a warm able body there doing it. Is that correct? Okay, so the answer is that in order for, I don't know exactly, like there's many ways to skin this cat. The way that's sort of being discussed right now is this Zoom room idea, for lack of a better word, right? And the way that, and there is no real remote, because even if you have remote cameras in rooms, somebody has to be on the, behind the curtain, sort of like pulling the strings and turning it on and making sure it's broadcasting. Make sense? So that being the case, one way or the other, if there are all kinds of remote installs, which is certainly one thing, but I think that's a lot more expensive than doing like a Zoom room as we're talking about it currently. I think that, the Zoom room is an alternate method. It's a lot cheaper to set up. It requires still somebody doing it, but ultimately, you're talking about like having a computer in a room or multiple computers in a room that are plugged into a box that we've identified as one that's an option that I think that Jerry has brought up as well, called the ATEM Mini. It's by a company called Blackmagic, and through that box you can plug in a computer, it can run a Zoom meeting, you can plug in multiple inputs into that computer, it can switch between one device, one computer and another, or one feed or one camera or what have you. And there are some options and some flexibility there, but it kind of will help you automatically broadcast through its stuff, through its software to YouTube or Facebook Live or whatever. But you still need somebody to set it up. And the idea of like a commission or a group of people walking into a room with a meeting going to happen and them saying, okay, here we are, and nobody's going to come here and our meeting's just going to automatically happen. I think at this exact moment in time, none of us believe that's possible. So then you need to think about, well, what's the equipment and what's the manpower,
The Zoom far as I understand it, once it's installed and you turn it on, it's totally autonomous. It does everything itself. You don't. The cameras are AI, so they track people, sound, and like with WebEx, they'll pick up on the person who's talking or whatever, but they're actually in the room, or not, because you have that other feed of the remote portion. But essentially, there's no operation by anybody other than the idea is what Alex just explained it, to patch it into the web device, the web capture device, and turn it on. Now, I'm waiting to see how it works. I mean, I'm familiar with what they do, like on C-SPAN. You get to see a lot of foreheads and noses and things like that. But they're not really like. Over the years, I've liked working from sticks because we get a more real shot of people, and that is one of the elements that I think the viewer does appreciate, rather than just the generic sort of industrial look that fixed ceiling-mounted cameras produce. But it's up to them, and however they want to do it.
Well,
as Alex said, it's a
I think what you just said is really important, and listen, I don't think we need to come up with an answer for this right this minute, but everybody should consider, like, with respect to the meetings that are broadcast, we're flat out, in my opinion, talking about quantity versus quality, and if we choose to broadcast 55 commissions and everybody's meetings every month, which is significantly more than what's currently happening, without having more dollars for the manpower to make that happen, then the quality has to go down. It's the only way. So liken it to if you were, going to make a video to tell people about some initiative you're working on, and you're going to do it, while holding your iPhone in front of your face, or you're going to have a production team in front of you making a video with you. That's ultimately, in my opinion, like a kind of a similar way of thinking about it. Now, ultimately, I mean, what Fair TV does is in part up to this commission, and in part up to what the town needs are and what they really want. And I'm, not going to stand in the way of what the needs of the town are. I want to help accomplish it ultimately, and work with you guys to figure out what's the best solution. So. And any question? I think, does everybody understand? Like, this is something that's just floating around right now. No decisions have been made, but everybody should just be aware. These are the discussions that are being had at least within the town, and some of the commissions or boards and what have you. Does everybody follow and good with that? And do you want to talk more about this or move on for the moment?
I would just like to make a suggestion that one of the things you might want to consider tonight is to appoint a commissioner to interface with the town on this issue.
Okay.
I mean, they come. I'm the manager, but it is a bureaucracy, and they do relate to the commissioners. On larger elements. I mean, granted, they talk to me about, we're going to work, going to be there or whatever, and we exchange information in regards to any particular event.
Yeah.
But as far as something on this scale, this is really a commissioner-related participation.
Yeah, and again, I thank you very much for pointing that out, Jerry. I think everybody should also know and listen. This is like, I feel like, even though I've been on these calls for a while, and Mark has been on a bunch of calls, and Patrick and Paula, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first call, right?
That's right.
Right. So understand that we haven't come across like this level of decision-making need since at least my experience on the commission. So this is all new. Okay. So hopefully it'll maybe it's a fun time and interesting. I should say it's an interesting time for the Fair TV Commission, as some new things are coming up. And I hope everybody appreciates that. So.
Most definitely.
Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
Well,
No.
I just wanted to say, as a point of information, in regards to what Alex just outlined as the basic structure of taking the Zoom and putting it out onto the web, nothing else. If they did 4 rooms, it's about, as far as like the equipment that FairTV needs to publish with. I'm going to kind of put it in that perspective to a web stream. For the 4 rooms, it's around $7,000. It's one of these. It's an ATM machine for each room, a laptop, and a couple other elements. A monitor so that you can see what's going out, as opposed to. Now, I'm not sure how in each one of these rooms the Zoom will come into. We could either put it, we can either have our own laptop and bring the Zoom up on the laptop, or there might be a direct patch from whatever hardware they have to have in the room right into the ATM web streaming device.
Yeah.
If that be the case, then
So just so you're aware, the ATEM device, you need to, the computer that is attached to that is ultimately broadcasting to the internet or wherever, that computer does have to have the ATEM software installed in it. So
yeah. Most
so anyhow,
definitely, and you can, if we were to get into any kind of production other than just passing the content to the web stream, then we would need there would be a requirement for a laptop because all the controls and settings are in that software. But if the idea is we just tie into the Zoom and spit it out, we could preset each ATM, and you don't really need a laptop. What you might want to have, however, is a little monitor. It just shows you what's going out, just so you know what's going out. I mean,
I think you need that, and I think, but again, I think the bigger question right now is like, are we moving on this or not? And I like this direction. If this is the choice, if this is what the town determines it really needs, and this is what Fair TV and us, the commission, determines is the right pursuit of production quality versus quantity and so on. Again, no, I'm not going to stand in the way of any of that, but I think we've kind of covered, okay, well, this is a tree worth, what is it, the barking up the right tree? So I think that, like, unless anybody has an alternate solution for, if Fair TV is going to be broadcasting a whole lot more meetings and doing it in a more sort of simplistic fashion, if somebody has a different idea, I'm all ears. I think everybody is, but this is the front runner if that's where we're headed anyway.
Okay.
All right. So
now, can I move on with other elements in my manager's report?
Please do. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
No, I did send all this information to everybody. I'm hoping that you have it, but I will go through it if you don't. The second item is tonight we need to approve the Cable Advisory Council Area 2 grant application. Did everybody get that and take a look at it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the elements in that system. I mean, these are things that we would. I have on the list. Well, I'll start at the top. I don't know if you're looking at. There's a TriCaster Mini, which is essentially our production device. It handles cameras, audio, graphics, the whole works. And this is what we basically use. We have older versions of this, but this is what we basically use to do our live broadcast. We have, right now in our complement, we have 3 older machines which do the job, but they're older and they will begin to fail. So we also have one of these TriCaster Minis, which is new, and we got it, and then COVID hit. So we really haven't used it yet. But I do want to get another one because my guess is at the very least we'll still be covering our 5 core meetings in the fashion that we do at this time. There's some elements of monitor. There's a switcher. And then what I did is I put together a complete kit for this to augment this Zoom room structure, which does include cameras in case we wanted to go that way, or for some reason we needed that capability in one of these ancillary rooms. It's a whole lot cheaper than what we normally would spend on a production kit, but it does do the job. And those are the elements you'll see on the grant report: the switcher, the monitor. There's some software for titling, an audio mixer, a pair of headphones, 2 cameras, and some ancillary cables.
Yeah. So Jerry, let me just jump in really quick. So everybody, just so you know what's going on, is there's a grant that we've been extended a very short extension. We've been offered a very short extension so we could have this meeting tonight. And Jerry has proposed like what we want to do, and now I know there are some questions about what we're doing in the future. However, this grant isn't coming around anytime soon again. So the net is that after Jerry finishes talking about this, we need to decide if we're going to, approve this, for the grant. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Jerry.
No, I don't really have. Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that explanation for everyone. Originally I was just going to get the TriCaster because that's really all we need. We have plenty of cameras for that purpose and whatnot. But when this thing came forward, I decided that I would put together this kit, this ancillary kit to the Zoom structure, so that no matter what they decide to do, we will be able to do it. We'll have the ATM device. We'll have a little monitor, and some additional elements in case, for some reason, we had the capability or the money to have somebody in there to actually do a more sophisticated production. But if that doesn't happen, it's fine. These elements can be put to use in other areas as we go along. Just so you understand what the Cable Advisory Council grant is, it's $100,000 that was carved out of a larger pool of funds called the PEG Access Funds that we all pay into with our cable bills, and a certain amount of it is given to each cable area. And we were able to get $100,000 carved out. That's Fairfield alone. Now there's four other towns that are active within the Cable Advisory Council on the level of what we call town-specific or narrowcasting. FairTV doesn't go anywhere beyond Fairfield as far as our cable broadcasting. You can't watch it on Optimum in Bridgeport or anywhere else, Woodbridge, just here in Fairfield. So these grants were awarded to support that, and every year we apply for a grant. Our average grant is anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 depending on need. So, and it only comes around once a year, which is why I've set up the grant in the way I have. And the total on the grant is $13,725.49. And that's what we would be seeking to get from the Cable Advisory Council.
Let me ask you a question, Jerry. If we apply for this grant and then all of a sudden Fair TV says, yes, we're doing the Zoom room, or no, we're not doing the Zoom room, what happens? Are we still using the grant, the items that we get through the grant effectively?
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing stopping us from doing our, if we had some ancillary content that we wanted to produce and put it through to YouTube as a live event, this would be the system. You wouldn't have to haul out the TriCasters and all the bigger cameras and whatnot. We could do a smaller, compact thing directly to the web as opposed to broadcasting on Fair TV. I mean, we can. We have, we would have to line in an additional device, which we actually have, an encoder that brings us into the broadcast hub located in Town Hall, which feeds all our platforms, cable, Optimum, Frontier, and our 2 web streams. So it's not like, it probably wouldn't be used every day, but we'd have the capacity and the capability to employ it perhaps in a future TIC.
And
All right.
also, if something changes, I think it's more a concern to worry about how the money's going to be distributed. But I don't think we really worry about that because they're kind of lenient in that way. That if we say "oops," they kind of go, "Okay."
Is that Stu?
It is.
Oh, hey, Stu. Sorry. How are you?
That's okay. I'll let Jerry keep
So-
going because Jerry knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I understand that this may seem extraneous in relation to our previous conversation, but on the other side of it, depending on what they decide to do, at least we'll have one kit that might be able to do a larger concept if that is actually what they want to do and fund. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have to fund it, but it would at least give us the capability to start, and they could pretty much decide to give us money for additional labor or whatever pretty easily. It's essentially a meeting, and if they want to do it, they'll do it.
So Jerry, and
We will have that.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we ultimately need to vote on whether or not, like, we're good to go with you applying for this grant on behalf of FairTV?
Yes, you do. Yeah, that has to happen tonight.
Okay, I'm good with that. I believe the process is somebody has to make a motion to vote in favor of this.
Right.
Is that
And
correct?
then second it, and then we either say yay or nay.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and
but-
does anybody have any additional questions? I'm ready to vote on this unless people have any questions.
I make a motion to vote on this.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Now,
Okay.
unfortunately, my joining late. We did stuff according to the agenda.
We did, and
Yeah.
we didn't know how to record the meeting the correct way, so I have a little recording device here that I'm recording the meeting on my end, so I can send that off.
You don't have to send that off really, as long as somebody will transcribe minutes of the meeting. So, in addition to everything else we've got to do, a secretary has to be elected who will transcribe the meeting minutes, and then you got to do the chairman and the vice chairman because we're all out.
Right. So for tonight, anyway, at the early onset of the meeting, Patrick was kind enough to volunteer to take minutes for tonight's meeting, anyway.
Okay, then as long as you decide who's going to be secretary, that person will now, once you've assigned them, that person will usually call Jennifer beforehand, get the conference call bridge, and then take the minutes. And you got to send this off to the town clerk. That's really it.
Okay.
Copy.
So I think Jerry, is there anything
I
else on your
recommend-
manager's report that we need to go over?
Yeah, there's two more items that are very quick. I've already talked about the Zoom room and YouTube thing. The last thing is that I do have a candidate to replace Will, and I was unable to scan his application for you. I didn't want to publish his Social Security, and I didn't want to cross it out either. So, but his name is Todd Manning. He works down in Stanford at a little theater. He's got some experience. We need to do a background check on him. I asked the town if they would conduct it. They won't because we're not a town department. So I have to pay for or FairTV has to pay for a background check. It's not much money.
Right. So let me ask this: why? So correct me if I'm wrong. If we get a background check, then at least we cover our butts that we have, done the right thing to vet this person, not only from a professional capability level, but also from a background, things we don't know about and wouldn't find out from an interview or application. Is that correct?
Right, exactly.
So-
Yes, yes.
So I'm in favor of that for the sake of properly vetting our people. Is anybody are you guys? I guess we have to vote on that, right?
Make a motion.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to vote on whether to vote on yes. Excuse me. Let me figure this out. I'd like to make a motion to go ahead with a background check per Jerry's suggestion. For I believe he said the number would be about $150 for this person.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
I'll second it there.
Make a note that we're going to use FairTV funds, as Jerry should not have to lay out the money for that.
Absolutely.
I got that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to cost that much. I already actually submitted, on an online, background check thing, the guy's name, and they've come back. But the thing is I haven't opened it because you got to pay to open it.
I understand. Okay, so so we're gonna vote if we're gonna vote to go ahead with the background check. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone against?
All those against? Motion carries.
Cool. Sorry to steal your thunder
All right,
there, Stu. I'm learning the ropes here. Sorry, Stu.
That's okay. Motion carries.
Okay, so go right ahead, Jerry. Thank you.
That's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Well,
And then at some point after we do this, you've got to elect the new officers. So, or at least make a motion today.
yeah, I think that would be new business, right? So.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt Jerry if he's
Well, so
hasn't finished the report.
yeah, I think he just finished. Jerry, are you done with the report?
Yes, I am. I am done.
All right. So now we need to approve the minutes. Is that correct, Stu?
From last month, yes.
Correct.
Yeah, I got it. And I'll make a motion, Patrick, to approve last month's meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
I'll second that.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries.
Okay. New business. I think if everybody doesn't mind, because we have a new commissioner and we're voting on some stuff. How would you propose, Chairman Stu, that we proceed? Should we have everybody talk about anything?
It's really just decide who you want to be the chairman and the vice chairman and the secretary, and then just make a motion. You're done.
All right.
And I don't even remember in the past. I know in the past when I was made the chairman, they just kind of turned to me and said, "You're it."
I tried to do that in that friendship, but by virtue of Alex's vice chairmanship, I just suggested, and again, this is Patrick, pardon the interruption, being outside of my area of expertise when it comes to this production, I think either Alex or one of the two new commissioners should be chairman. So I don't want to speak for anybody else, but now having spoken, I'm happy to act as secretary and continue to take the notes and do the setups.
All right. Well, I would vote to, if anybody. We have two options here, and please everybody speak up. Number one is we can jump right in and vote and elect people to their respective positions. Number two is we could go around and get to know each other for a minute, and everybody could tell us, what they do, and because we don't all know, and I'd love to hear from you guys and get to know you a little bit, regardless of our position on the commission, just to get to know everybody who's on the commission a little better.
Sure, do that.
All right.
Sure.
Would Stu? I know Stu is outgoing. Stu, would you like to say a few words both about your career and your, chairmanship of the commission for your time here, and any words of wisdom?
Sure. I don't have much wisdom because it's all gone already. But I've been doing this. I've been doing television production since 1975 in college, and I don't even think half of you people are alive yet. But managed to do some of the great shows, work with Cap Kangaroo, work with Sesame Street before it was Sesame Street, worked with Zoom, if you remember Zoom, which was a show on PBS. I've done sports, news, and entertainment. I do have 4 Emmys finally, and like I said, I've been doing this forever, so it's I've been more on the technical side, and I joined. My wife mentioned that there was an opening for FairTV back in 2016, 2015. So I started, and then at the next term, the then commissioner pointed to me and said, "You're it." And they all ran out of the room, so I was stuck. It's been fun. Jerry knows exactly what he's doing. He's very good at what he does. So I feel that we kind of guide him along. And when he has a question, he comes to any one of us. But he's the man. So I'll throw it to somebody else. And unfortunately, my term is up. I never knew that there was a term limit, but it is what it is. So you guys have got the reins now.
Thank you very much, Stu. Is anybody else would like to jump in, or I certainly can if anybody doesn't have an objection. Okay, so this is Alex.
Go ahead, Captain Alex. You do it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Stu, and thank you for your service to FairTV Commission. And it's been great. It's been great learning from you as a part of the commission. So that said, nowadays I do video production professionally. I do all kinds of work for businesses, special events, special announcements. I just finished a documentary that, by the way, is going to be played, it looks like, in the community theater here in Fairfield on August 24th. I'd love it if you guys want to come, but it's about a Hall of Fame golfer who lost the use of his legs at age 24, and he became a golfer from a wheelchair. It's pretty spectacular, and I just finished that. Tiger Woods.
It's going to be the Sacred Heart Arena, or whatever it's called now.
The Sacred Heart Community Theater, right down right down in the middle of town. Yes, August 24th.
I'd love to go, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, please. I think I'd love for you guys to come. I got to meet Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and all these golf industry greats who it's been very cool and a lot of fun. And anyhow, so I do video production for all kinds of different scenarios, really anything. I edit, I run cameras. I came into video production from running live events and being kind of a technical director and producer for live events all over the country and internationally. I've produced tech conferences and concerts, and then finally my educational background is I'm a musician. I went to Berklee College of Music and studied there, and then worked on major concerts right out of college, and then got a master's in music at Cal Arts in LA, and then later down the line realized I was all artist and no brains, and I decided to go back to school for an MBA. And following the MBA is when I really got into show production. So here we are now. So yes. So who next? Patrick.
Rounding out, the existing commissioners, Patrick Colligan. So again, not from this industry at all. I just figured I'd raise my hand and do something to help out in the town, and there was a position open, so I got involved. I have worked in finance for 30 years. I work with families, foundations, and nonprofits, helping their investments and financial planning and so forth. And so I've worked in New York and moved up here to Greenwich, lived in Greenwich for 16 years, moved up here with my wife and 3 kids 4 years ago, and so again, haven't met anybody. Happy to do whatever's entailed in the realm of finance when it comes to helping the commission try to help with keeping things square, and happy to be helping out. On to the next.
Thank you, Mark.
Can you guys hear me? I hope my connection's a little better.
Yeah, we hear you great now. I do anyway.
Sure.
Great. So I'm Mark Gioiella, and I lived in Fairfield when I was a kid, then moved away, moved back here with my wife and 2 daughters about almost 5 years ago. Currently, I work at IBM as a writing coach, but for most of my career, I was a television reporter and anchor in markets like Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and New York City. And what else can I tell you about me? That's a good enough start, I think. Happy to one day hopefully meet all of you.
Agreed.
Very interesting group.
Agreed. Thank you.
I think by the fall they may be back. I don't know. I mean, they've kind of, from what we've been seeing, they like the idea of the Zoom calls.
Yep.
My
Oh, and I
impression
forgot.
is,
All right. Well, we have
from what
one.
I've discovered,
Well, go ahead.
from
Sorry.
what I've learned, I'm sorry, I did kind of interrupt, so excuse me, but I just wanted to bounce off of that. From what I've learned from various meetings that we've covered, they're mulling over the whole thing, and they're going to be, they set aside some money, they're going to talk about it some more. It's going to be kind of finalized sometime in September. So my guess is that once they make a deal with whoever this vendor is, it might be October-ish before they have their systems in place. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But as far as what's going on now, I think we'll be seeing this into October.
Cool.
Just so I just started off with that.
Thank you, Jerry. Paula, let's hear from you, please.
Sure. So, let's see. Back, it feels like a million years ago, I was a journalism student who became a television producer in local news, and I did that for 10 years, working in New Haven, and Atlanta, and New York. And then once we moved out of the city after 9/11, I had my first child, and we moved to Fairfield when he was about 2. And then I had my second child, my daughter, and decided that I was going to stay at home and let my husband be the breadwinner. And so I was a stay-at-home mom, and then decided to go back to grad school in 2016 for media literacy and social justice. And so my new career, which is really volunteer-oriented at this point, is I'm an anti-racism educator for the Council of Churches of Greater Bridgeport. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I have a lot of, obviously my experience with television is all content. I was a writer. I was a line producer for multiple broadcasts. So I was more on the content side, and I had the opportunity to serve the town in this realm, and I thought it sounded pretty interesting, and Alex kind of talked me into it, and so...
Sorry about that.
That's good.
Nobody's background will go to waste. Trust me. It's not like if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, it's nothing. Anybody's background will be helpful and accepted in the commission.
Yeah, no, that sounds wonderful, and I will say that, in my opinion, being a mom is one of the toughest and most intense jobs on the planet. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
That's true. I remember saying that early on, thinking, "Wow, like I thought TV production was hard. That was nothing compared to staying at home with your kids." But
Oh my
it's all
gosh.
good. It's worth it. It's the end product, the end production. The stakes are a lot higher, and it was worth it.
Well, great. Well, did we forget is anybody else on the call that needs to tell us about them? Jerry, would you like to tell us a little bit about your career?
Yeah, okay. I started out in museum as a curator of video art back in way long ago. I did that for about 5 years. I was in a museum in upstate New York. My director was James Heritis out of Hirshhorn, and the individual who I worked directly under, David Ross, later went on to be director of the Whitney and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and other institutions. And I moved on from that into motion picture production, basically scenic. I built sets at MGM and in Burbank, and I was technical director of the Los Angeles Improv for about 4 years. I worked with Joseph Stern and William Devane at their theater. They had a little waiver theater on Melrose. And I also freelanced stringer with CBS and the Financial News Network, which is now MSNBC. I moved to New York and did similar work, got married. I married my wife, who was a commercial film editor, and now teaches. And then I started FairTV about 12 years ago with some other individuals. The town, we brought it to the town, and the current, the first selectman at the time, helped got us set up, and we eventually, developed to where we are now. But that's basically about it. I also work to help get. I was talking earlier about the grant money. That involved a fairly long-term battle up in the state houses due to some issues with what's called the third-party provider. That is way too long of a story to get into. But we did manage through a unanimous vote to free up this $100,000 portion of the PEG funds to support what we called town-specific programming, which is, as I said, a narrowcasting concept. And it essentially also gave each town in our cable area, which there are 6 towns, the capability to do this. Prior to that, it was all through one funnel.
Wow.
And, very limiting, and it's a long story, but and so here I am today as the system manager for FairTV.
Very cool. I think I learned something new every time we talk, Jerry. So you've got quite a career. Thank you. Well, I think
like I said, Jerry knows what he's doing, and he's very good for this.
Agreed.
Is that everybody?
I believe so.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
Well, I think we're at that fun moment now where we do need to elect officers. Stu, would you be so kind as to help lead us through that process?
Yeah, it's just somebody. I mean, somebody says you're it, and then we all run away. I mean, I'll say, Alex, you're now the commissioner. You got to hire. You got to decide.
Yeah, you have to nominate. Somebody has to nominate whoever.
Yeah, you mean
I did that at the top of the hour. I nominated Alex. So I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? You're it. All right, you're it. We need a vice
All right.
chair. Thanks for the guidance, Stu.
Thank you.
That's how I just stumble around and do stuff.
Hey, Stu, what is the role of the vice chair?
Well,
Chairman, the only thing with the chairman is the way I kind of approached it was if there are big items that the town wants to talk about, you are the presence because they're going to want. It's weird. Jerry does everything that he does, but sometimes they want the presence of the commission. So I just would attend meetings or talk to them. Vice chairman, same thing. If the chairman is unable to do something, the vice chairman can step in. And the secretary, like I said, the secretary kind of takes the minutes, and then if you have anything to say, just say it. The only other thing that'll happen is you got to assign somebody eventually to go to the CAC2. I've been asked to stay on with the SVAC, which is the next step up, but we'll figure that out as we get a little further in. So the big thing is the chairman. As chair, my role as chairman is to schedule the meetings every month and make sure that the conference calls. I mean, it used to be easy because we just showed up in the town hall, and who knows what's going to happen with that. But anyway, so somebody make a nomination for vice chair.
Okay. I would like to nominate Mark for vice chair.
Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
All right. And once again, I would like to nominate Patrick as secretary.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Grudgingly, aye. I'll vote aye.
You're voting for yourself, huh? That's allowed?
Yeah, I'll vote aloud for yourself.
Okay, so we
All right, motion carries.
thank you very much, Stu, for helping us through that. So now, if I understand correctly, we have a chair who's me, we have a vice chair who's Mark, we have a secretary who's Patrick, and we have a regular, good old-fashioned commissioner who's Paula. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yes, and what ends up happening is you just got to make sure when you have a meeting date, you just need a quorum. So if there's 5, you need 3, and then you can make any decisions and they'll carry. Okay, so anything else? New business? Slide requests? Anything?
Any new business?
I have no slide requests.
Okay, that makes things
Nothing?
easy. I would like to request, if possible, so next month, the 18th, is our FairTV meeting, and I'm going to be away on vacation, and it's all I can do to actually try to not work in a vacation. So I was wondering would you guys, Stu, how would this work? Can we reschedule a meeting or hold it on a different date, or no?
Well, it's a little more difficult to reschedule. You can, by the way, as chair, you can decide if it's slow, it's the summer, and if Jerry has nothing to talk, you could cancel a meeting for a month. You could say, all right, the next meeting will be in September.
Or if some urgent business comes up, you can schedule a special meeting.
All right.
There are rules around that, but you can do that too.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that info. That's really helpful. Let me ask this. Before we adjourn, there's a couple of things I want to bring up as in my new chairmanship. And again, Stu, thank you so much for everything. You are released if you want to jump, but you can certainly stay on and help us finish this last one out. And again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but thank you so much for everything. I know you've been involved a long time. A lot has happened, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you and to learn from you within the commission. Thank you very much, Stu.
My pleasure as well. And I know I'll talk to you before the meeting next month. And like I said, if you want to, you can cancel next month.
Okay. Well, I'd love to keep you as a resource to, from time to time when we have some questions or some insights, if that's okay by you.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Finally, me used to, because growing up, I was raised by Zoom.
Well, I think
That's why my daughter thinks I'm 105 years old. I tell her some of these things. She goes, I studied that in ancient history.
I think, what I think would be really nice, and listen, we can shoot an email off, but maybe sometime in the next month or two, we can all get together outside of a FairTV meeting and, meet up for a
Well, how about we all meet up for your showing at the movie theater?
That would certainly be wonderful. I would love to have you guys join. I don't know how much hanging out the 4 of us will do. What's that?
Definitely going to go to that.
Yeah, I will send you guys the info. Thank you so much.
I mean, we got tables and chairs outside of, a restaurant, whatever,
Yeah, well, I'll send you guys the info for that. But one way or the other, I'd love to connect and just have it be about the crew, us crew commission connecting and getting to know each other a little better. And okay, so we'll figure that out. But that said, is there a need at this exact moment for us to request for somebody to become the liaison for talking with the town about this Zoom room stuff we were talking about earlier?
No, it's not a bad idea. I mean, I think there's going to be more. I know there's going to be more discussion, and I'm more than happy to talk to whoever that person might be and to give them any more information they might want, or that to cue them when they're having these discussions to be present.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we do this?
Idea.
Why don't we do this, Jerry? You keep your ear to the ground on this stuff, and if and when it starts heating up a little bit more, you let us know via email or phone call, and we will get somebody over there talking to whoever is spearheading this effort to sort of iron out what they're looking for and how we can help accomplish it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of got to follow whatever it is they decide to do and adapt. That's really, I think, if we're going to do it, I mean.
No, I completely agree. And again, I think I said earlier, I wouldn't want to get in the way of that. But what I do want to have happen is for what they're asking for, you and the commission to fully understand and help make those decisions.
Right. because, like I say, depending on their expectation, well, we may or may not be able to fund it in our current
Right.
budget. I mean, my current budget is spent essentially based upon our current complement.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Well, well, listen. That said, we'll cross that bridge when we need to, as it heats up a little bit. If that's okay with everybody. Anybody object to that?
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that said,
We have.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say. I forgot what I was gonna say. So never mind.
All right. So, anything else to talk about? Or are we good?
I think we're good. Anybody else have anything they would like to share? Oh, I got one last thing. So, Paula, you were so kind in telling everybody that I apparently convinced you to be on the commission. But one of the things we talked about, apologies for that. One of the things we talked about was that, what kind of like new initiatives can we bring to Fair TV? Like good, wholesome, good for the community kind of initiatives. And some ideas have come up. For example, like, can we one day be in a position to help student content, be played on Fair TV? Say a student creates a film at school or through school and it's a good one or whatever. I'm just using that as a sheer example, but this is something I'm hugely in favor for, but it's hard to make these kind of things happen because there are a number of hoops to jump through. But I would just invite anybody who has any ideas of ways to sort of complement, all of the meetings that are broadcast, with good, wholesome community content that,
Keep in mind, the only thing you got to worry about right now is the way that the ordinance is written.
Right.
And you saw the fallout from the last time. You just got to be careful. We tried to get it changed. That might be one thing that you want to work on with Jay Wolf, but until you're a little hamstrung on what you want to do until that ordinance gets changed.
Yep.
if I may,
Go ahead.
if I may,
Yes.
if what we could really use is someone to work with the Board of Education, with the district. Because they got all these. They have at the high schools. They have 2 television production facilities, and they teach television production. We get no content from them. Well, actually, we get some content from one of the teachers over in Ward. His name is Jim Acosta, and he's a civics history teacher. And every year, his students will put out maybe 3 or 4 videos about some historical element or whatever. And I can make those pieces available to you. But it might not be a bad idea to try and generate a little larger participation from the schools. Now, granted, the kids, they're not TV based anymore; they're web based. But we got web too. So
Right. I think my point. Thank you very much, Joe. You're absolutely right. I think my point on this is that I would prefer to come at it rather than coming at it from the direction of trying to change the ordinance. I would prefer to come at it from the perspective of, hey, we've got a great wholesome community idea. How can we accomplish this? The ordinance is in our way.
You try to get that changed, and you saw
whatever way you want to approach it is,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and Stu, you were right. Listen, I am not excited about the what it entails to change this ordinance, but it's worth at least exploring a little bit, and if we have a good idea behind it, maybe that'll help. That's all.
Sure.
So thank you. I completely agree with you, Stu, and we can, as the commission, talk more about what the ordinance is all about. I encourage everybody to check it out when you get a chance, and yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Definitely go after that. See if you can get it changed. And if not, something I'm thinking about just now, if you kind of work around it, do that. Because you saw what we went through, and you'll have to explain that in the next meeting or whatever you want. But if you could go around it, great. If you can't, then you got to start. We just waited to cool things off with the town, and then if you want to attempt it again, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you.
It'll be changed, and it'll give you more latitude.
Yeah. All right. Well, that said, is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Okay. Well, I'd like to just end the meeting with a big farewell. Thank you, Stu.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah, thank you,
pleasure,
too.
everybody. Thank you. I also like the idea of when Alex has this thing, we kind of meet in face. That's the one frustrating thing about this whole thing is that we never could see anybody's faces. So let's try and do that. And with that, I'll say adieu, adieu, adieu.
Goodbye.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Second. All right.
Second.
Thanks, everybody.
All those in favor?
Thanks, Stu. Bye.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
It's very nice to meet, at least talk with all you new members. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
Good night.